How many people here have gone through puberty? And how many people have gone through puberty twice? Well, I have. Today, I'm going to be talking about hormone replacement therapy in female-to-male or assigned female at birth individuals. I'm going to be using these terms interchangeably, but they both mean someone with a biologically female reproductive system. Benjamin Harris of the US Census Bureau published a report in May 2015 that there was an estimated 88,478 transgender individuals reported in the 2010 census. Approximately 57,640 of these individuals identified as female to male. This line graph indicates that there has been a mostly consistent increase in reported transgender individuals from 1936 until 2010. The recognition of the transgender community has grown because of famous icons such as Laverne Cox, Janet Mock, and Caitlyn Jenner. Although these are women who were assigned male at birth, the topic of hormone replacement therapy has gone from something that is extremely controversial to something that we can now openly discuss. I started hormone replacement therapy 4.5 years ago. I have given several presentations educating audiences about transgender issues. I've also given these presentations to faculty and administrators on this campus as well as the Bethlehem campus. My main points are going to be what hormone replacement therapy is, some myths that are generally associated with it, and my own personal experiences. And before I get to the myths and my experiences, I'm going to explain what it is. So hormone replacement therapy is introducing artificial testosterone into the body. Hudson's FTM resource guide, accessed on March 13, 2016, describes the goal is to induce and maintain masculine secondary sex characteristics. Some of these characteristics include an increase in facial hair as well as body hair, a sharper and more prominent jawline, and the fat redistributing from the hips, butt, and chest towards the abdomen. As you can see in the bottom right picture, the torso has a more hourglass-shaped figure, which is generally characterized as feminine, whereas on the left, it is straighter. Some other characteristics include the voice dropping in pitch, hair loss due to the hairline receding, change in body odor because testosterone can make you sweat a little more, and the cessation of the menstrual cycle. The purpose is to alleviate gender dysphoria. Previously known as gender identity disorder, the 5th edition of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders defines gender dysphoria as a marked difference between the individual's expressed or experienced gender and the gender others would assign him or her, and it must continue for at least 6 months. What this means is that the gender that is indicated on someone's birth certificate does not match how they feel about themselves. It's also important to note that gender nonconformity is not a disorder. It is a clinically significant distress associated with gender dysphoria that is. Now that we understand that hormone replacement therapy causes various physical changes and the purpose is to alleviate gender dysphoria, I wanted to talk about some myths that are associated with it. Myths and Misconceptions about Testosterone Transition in Trans Men by Hudson's FTM Guide, accessed on March 13, 2016, has compiled a list of 12 myths that are commonly associated with taking testosterone. Now I'm going to be going over the 3 most common myths. The first one is that testosterone will cause uncontrollable anger, otherwise known as roid rage. Because testosterone is the same steroid used illegally by bodybuilders, it is easy to assume those undergoing hormone replacement therapy will have the same side effects. This is because there is a drastic shift in hormone levels. However, hormone replacement therapy is increasing the levels of testosterone to a healthy range, whereas bodybuilders are exceeding normal range. The next myth is that testosterone can make you gay. Just as with any person, a transgender person can have any sexuality, whether that is gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, and so forth. There is no correlation that taking testosterone will change your sexuality. However, it is common that when people feel more confident by taking hormones, they are willing to explore their sexuality. The last myth is that it is always easy to identify a trans person. And I guarantee that those who did not know me before would have not looked at me and been like, yeah, they're trans. This indicates that there's a difference between looking normal and looking trans. Not only is it something you shouldn't assume, it's also dehumanizing to transgender people because it focuses on the aspect that they are trans and not the aspect that they are just a person. Now that we have cleared up some misconceptions, I'm going to talk about my own personal experiences. As I stated earlier, I started hormone replacement therapy 4.5 years ago on September 6, 2011. Before I was able to start hormones, I had to be diagnosed with gender identity disorder. Even though it is no longer classified as a disorder, the DSM-5 did not come out in 2013, which is 2 years after I already started. Once I was able to receive a letter stating I was a true transgender person, I was able to get prescribed testosterone. The changes I noticed first was my voice dropped within the first 3 weeks. I never really had a high voice, but this is definitely not what I was expecting for someone that's so short. Another change I had was I no longer experienced my period, so whoever experienced that can emphasize that it's great to not have to deal with that, ever. And there was also my fat redistributed from my hips towards my stomach. We learned that hormone replacement therapy causes various physical as well as emotional changes, and the purpose is to alleviate gender dysphoria. It does not necessarily cause uncontrollable anger or change your sexuality, and it is not necessarily easy to identify a trans person. It's also important to remember that approximately 89,000 transgender people were reported in the 2010 census, and how likely that number has increased in the last 6 years. Puberty is an awkward and uncomfortable experience for everyone. I never imagined I would have to go through puberty twice, but because of hormone replacement therapy, I am confident and comfortable in my body, and I am proud to call myself a transgender person. Thank you.